Hey guys, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. And today I want to cover the 4 key hardware components that go into my real estate property videos. Hardware component number 1 is a gimbal, a nice solid gimbal. This one right here is the brand new to the market Feiyutech AK4500. I just completed a review on this particular gimbal. It does a really good job, and the latest version of firmware actually makes the movement, or the camera movement, a lot more smooth. The headline things about this particular gimbal is that it has 10.1 pounds of max capacity. That's a bit of a game changer in the handheld gimbal marketplace. Moreover, Feiyu also gives us this Bluetooth remote controller back here, which allows us via a joystick to control the pan, tilt, and roll if you wanted to. You can also utilize this button, this right here, to control the roll, or the tilt I should say. If you press it, you can control the pan. If you press it again, you can control the roll. It's a pretty versatile gimbal that offers up a lot of nice new cool features. You can do 360 barrel rolls with it. And what I love about it most is that you can see this cable right here. This will actually integrate a lot of your camera's functions right into the control panel of the gimbal. So you can start and stop recording, you can change your ISO, your white balance, etc. It's kind of a neat game changer of a device. I really like the AK4500. It is brand new. It's $750. It's a pretty good deal. But the fact of the matter is, you could probably utilize any really solid gimbal out there. I used to utilize, in fact I still utilize, the Gimbal or Xeon Weebill Lab. I still utilize the Xeon Crane 2. Those are both very nice and very refined gimbals. Really, any newer gimbal will suffice. The only reason why I prefer this one is because of the max capacity. When I have a larger lens and camera on it, the AK4500 can handle it no problem, whereas the Weebill Lab, because it's so small and compact, even though it has a 6.6 pounds of capacity, getting the center of gravity with larger cameras becomes a bit of a challenge because there isn't enough room to get it to fit in there, even though weight-wise it can handle it. But anyway, component number 1 is a nice, solid, current gimbal. Component number 2 is a camera. Fortunately, this is actually the one device that is probably the least of your concerns, because virtually every camera out there can meet the minimum specs that are really required for a real estate video. Most important thing to keep in mind is that the overwhelming majority of people watching these things are going to be watching them on a screen this size. Now, there are some people who will be house hunting that may look on a wider screen, but if you shoot at 1080 is going to be more than high resolution enough for the overwhelming majority of people who are going to be watching these videos. And fortunately, there are a ton of cameras out there that can shoot 1080p, but here's the other thing. It's got to be 1080p and 60 frames. Why 60 frames? 2 reasons. Number 1, slow motion. 60 frames is like the minimum price of entry to bring in slow motion to your production. Things like water features, fire pits, those kinds of things look so much cooler. I don't know why, they just look so much cooler in slow motion. And number 2, 60 frames per second with stabilization allows us to smooth out the footage in post a lot better than 24 or 30 frames. So reality is 1080p, 60 frames is the bare minimum price of entry for a real estate video. The other thing I might add is that you really need to have a camera that shoots clean video up to 3200 ISO. Some of the most compelling pieces of video that you're going to be taking are going to be at night, and a camera that can do nice and clean video at 3200 ISO, in my opinion, is critical. I'm utilizing the A7R Mark III. I also have an A7 Mark III. I found the video between the two of them to be more or less the same, or so similar that the average person couldn't tell. But I'm doing 1080, 60 frames per second. I will go up as high as 3200 ISO, and both of these cameras handle that with aplomb. Component number 3, a wide-angle lens. Personally, the way I like to shoot really wide. I usually go as wide as 14 millimeters, but the reality is you can get away with up to 18 millimeters. So anything between 14 and 18 millimeters equivalent on a full-frame camera. This lens right here, this is the budget option. This is the Samyang FE 14 millimeter f2.8. It does a pretty adequate job, but in order for this to be really sharp, I've got to shoot it at around f4. Typically, especially again at night, I like to shoot wider, like at f2.8, maybe f3.5, to bring in as much light as possible so I'm not cranking up the ISO so much as to bring in too much unwanted noise in the video. Now, that said, I finally scrounged up enough pennies to get my dream lens. I did a review on it about a year ago, and I finally got enough money to get one. I'm going to be getting the Sigma 14mm f1.8 Art Series lens. If you haven't used that lens and you're thinking about doing real estate videos, if you can afford it, to me that's the holy grail. The f1.8 aperture combined with 14mm to me is just a thing of beauty for real estate videos. It gives me so much flexibility when I'm shooting and even more flexibility in post. So if you're shooting Canon, like the new EOS R, that brand new 15-35 lens looks really promising. You can get third-party lenses that you can use adapted to the Canon. The 16-35 will do fine. The Sigma 14, the 24 will do fine. If you're a Sony shooter and you have a Zeiss Batis 18mm f2.8, that too will do just fine. Again, I like to shoot wider, but it's a personal preference. To me, you need to be at least 18mm on the narrowest. I like to shoot around 14, 15mm. To me, the Samyang 14, the Sigma 14mm f1.8, either one of those will suit you just fine. The fourth piece of hardware that's critical for your real estate videos is a drone. This one right here is the Mavic 2 Pro from DJI. There's a lot of things about this drone that I love. Everything from its 30 minutes of flight time to the fact that it has a 1-inch sensor. It's got a Hasselblad lens. The footage that I'm able to capture close to sunset, and remember the FAA allows you to fly these things commercially up to 30 minutes after sunset. And at that time the sky goes blue. The footage gets a little bit grainy, but it's not too bad. And unlike shooting on the ground with the gimbal and the camera, I might suggest that you probably want to get something that can do at least 2.7K at 60 frames, but if you can get a drone that does 4K at 60, great. I know the Phantom 4 Pro does 4K at 60. This one only does 2.7K at 60, but that's still sharp enough, or still enough resolution to crop in a little bit if you have to. The Phantom 4 Pro allows you to crop in quite a bit because it does in fact shoot at 4K at 60. Great for slow motion, great for smoothing out footage. Again, I can get away with 2.7K. I just love the small form factor of the Mavic 2 Pro, the 1-inch sensor, the footage. It's pretty awesome. And in my humble opinion, especially on these bigger, more like epic-sized houses, nothing better tells a story or gives you more size and scope than aerial footage from a competent drone like the Mavic 2 Pro. So there you have it. Those are 4 key components, hardware components, to make quality real estate videos. A gimbal, a camera that shoots at least 1080 at 60 frames, a nice lens. I like to shoot at 14mm, but again, even 18mm will suit you. And lastly, and most importantly, in my opinion, is a drone. Don't forget to get licensed with the FAA. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take all 4 of these components and we're going to show you what's possible. The gimbal, the camera, the lens, and of course the drone, all working together to make a real estate video. In future videos, I'll be showing you actual filming techniques in addition to post-processing. But for right now, go ahead and check out what's possible with these 4 components. So there you have it. Curious to hear from you. What kind of lenses do you like to use? What kind of cameras do you like to use in your real estate videos? I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. If you like videos like this, go ahead and give me a like, or better yet, subscribe. And until the next time, happy filming.